The earth trembles beneath a sky stained crimson and black. The volcano has been roaring for days now, sending plumes of ash thousands of meters into the atmosphere, blotting out the sun over the eastern plains of the Rift Valley. Rivers of molten rock carve through ancient forests, transforming life into char and silence. The air tastes of sulfur and death. Animals flee in great waves. Zebras, wildebeest gazelles, their instincts screaming a single command: run. But in the chaos of nature's fury, not every creature escapes. Not every life is accounted for. And in this apocalyptic landscape, where the boundary between earth and hell has collapsed, an old woman walks alone. Her name is Nia, though few remember it anymore. She lives on the fringe of the evacuation zone, in a mud brick homestead that her grandfather built 6 decades ago, back when the volcano was nothing more than a sleeping giant, wrapped in myth. The government vehicles came yesterday, urging her to leave, their loudspeakers crackling with warnings of pyroclastic flows and toxic gases. But Nia waved them away. She has lived through droughts that killed livestock by the thousands, through floods that swallowed whole villages. She will not be moved by fire. Her knees ache with arthritis. Her back is bent from years of carrying water, but her eyes remain sharp, the eyes of a woman who has learned to read the land as others read books. And so she walks the perimeter of her land, checking on the goats that have scattered, securing what little she can before the ash buries everything. It is near the dry riverbed, where the acacia trees stand skeletal and blackened, that she hears it. A sound so faint it could be mistaken for wind through dead branches. But Nia stops, tilts her head, listens. There it is again, a high-pitched mewling, fragile and desperate. She follows the sound, her bare feet crunching over a carpet of grey ash that has turned the world monochrome. The heat is oppressive, even here, several kilometers from the volcanic vents. The air shimmers with it. And then she sees the cub. It is no larger than a house cat, its tawny fur matted with volcanic dust, its blue-grey eyes barely open. The cub lies against a boulder, too weak to stand, its tiny ribs heaving with each breath. Nia crouches beside it, her shadow falling over the creature like a blessing. She knows immediately what it is: a lion cub, no more than 3 or 4 weeks old, separated from its mother in the chaos of the eruption. The cub should not be here. Lion prides do not den this close to human settlements, not anymore. But the volcano has rewritten all the rules, driving wildlife into zones they would normally avoid. The cub's mother is likely dead, crushed by falling rocks or overcome by toxic fumes. Or perhaps she fled, her survival instinct overpowering the bond to her offspring. Either way, this small creature is alone. Nia reaches out slowly, her weathered hand trembling not from fear, but from the sheer improbability of the moment. The cub flinches at her touch, then goes still, too exhausted to resist. Its heartbeat flutters against her palm like the wings of a trapped bird. She knows what she should do. She should leave it. Nature does not forgive interference, and lion cubs separated from their pride almost never survive, even with human help. But something in Nia's chest tightens, a feeling she cannot name. Perhaps it is the memory of her own children, grown now and scattered to distant cities. Perhaps it is the simple, irrational compassion that sometimes rises in humans when faced with helplessness. She wraps the cub in her shawl, tucking it against her chest, and begins the long walk back to her homestead. The first night is the hardest. The cub refuses to drink the goat's milk Nia offers, turning its head away, mewling in confusion and distress. She warms the milk over her small fire, tests the temperature on her wrist the way she once did for her own infants. She dips her finger in the liquid and touches it to the cub's mouth. At first, nothing. Then slowly, instinct takes over. The cub's small tongue laps weakly at the milk, then more eagerly. Nia cradles it in her lap, her hand supporting its head, guiding it to the shallow bowl. The cub drinks, and Nia exhales a breath she did not realize she had been holding. Days fold into weeks. The volcano's fury gradually subsides, the eruptions becoming less frequent, the ash clouds thinning. The world begins to breathe again. And in Nia's small homestead, the cub grows. At 6 weeks, it has doubled in size, its legs stronger, its eyes fully open and alert.
What am I to do with
It
you?
follows Nia around the compound, stumbling over its oversized paws, pouncing on her skirts as if they were
My
prey.
little
Nia
Cody.
names her Kessie, a word from her childhood language meaning born in troubled times. The name fits. Kessie is a creature of paradox, wild by nature yet dependent on human care for survival. She sleeps curled against Nia's back at night, her small body radiating warmth, her soft purring a sound that seems impossibly gentle for a predator. By 3 months, Kessie is no longer small. Her paws are massive, her shoulders already showing the muscular build of her species. She plays with an intensity that borders on violence, attacking sticks and stones with savage focus, her teeth needle-sharp and her claws capable of drawing blood. Nia learns to move carefully around her, to anticipate the sudden pounces, the playful bites that are not quite playful anymore. She begins to understand the enormity of what she has done. Kessie is not a pet. She will never be domesticated no matter how long she lives among humans. The wildness in her is not learned. It is woven into her bones, coded into her DNA. At 6 months, Kessie is larger than any dog, her coat a rich golden brown, her eyes the color of amber. She has stopped drinking milk, preferring the raw meat Nia brings her, goat mostly, though occasionally Nia trades for beef from the village market. The other villagers know about Kessie now. Some come to see the lioness, their eyes wide with disbelief and fear. Others warn Nia that she is courting disaster, that the lion will turn on her, that it is unnatural to keep such a creature. Nia listens to their words but does not argue. She knows they may be right, but she also knows that releasing Kessie now, before she has learned to hunt, before she has been integrated into a pride, would be a death sentence. So she waits and watches, and tries to prepare for a future she cannot predict. The teaching begins without conscious intention. Nia notices that Kessie watches the birds with obsessive focus, her body going rigid, her tail twitching. One afternoon, Nia drags a piece of meat tied to a rope across the compound, mimicking the movement of prey. Kessie's response is instantaneous. She drops low, her belly nearly touching the ground, then explodes forward in a sprint that ends with the meat clamped in her jaws. The satisfaction in the lioness's eyes is primal and unmistakable. From that day forward, Nia repeats the exercise, making it harder each time, hiding the meat, varying the patterns, forcing Kessie to think, to anticipate, to refine her technique. She does not know if this makeshift training will be enough, but it is all she can offer. The seasons turn, the rains come, washing away the last traces of volcanic ash, turning the plains into a patchwork of green. Wildflowers bloom in impossible colors, purple, yellow, crimson, their petals opening to the sun. Kessie is 15 months old now, her body powerful and sleek, her movements a study in lethal efficiency. She has begun to vocalize more, her sounds ranging from soft chuffs to low, rumbling growls that vibrate through Nia's chest when she stands near. The old woman understands that these are not threats, but communication, a language she can only partially comprehend. Kessie is trying to tell her something, trying to bridge the gap between their worlds with the only tools she has. By 1 year, Kessie is nearly full-grown, weighing close to 120 kilograms, her movements a blend of grace and power that takes Nia's breath away. She no longer sleeps inside the house. She is too large, too restless. Instead, she spends her nights prowling the perimeter of the homestead, her presence keeping hyenas and jackals at bay. Nia can hear her in the darkness, the soft padding of her paws, the occasional low growl. And sometimes, late at night, Kessie returns to the doorway, lying just outside the threshold, her massive head resting on her paws, as if she cannot quite bring herself to leave. It is during the dry season, when the grasses have turned brittle and the waterholes have shrunk to muddy puddles, that everything changes. Nia wakes one morning to find Kessie standing at the edge of the homestead, staring out toward the horizon. Her body is tense, her ears swiveling, her nostrils flaring as she tests the wind. Nia approaches slowly, following the lioness's gaze, and then she sees them, a pride of lions, perhaps 8 or 9 individuals moving across the distant plains. They are hunting, their bodies low to the ground, coordinated and lethal. Casey watches them with an intensity that borders on obsession. She does not move, does not make a sound, but Naya can see the longing in her posture, the recognition of something fundamental that has been missing from her life. That night, Casey does not return. Nya waits by the fire, her hands folded in her lap, her heart heavy with a grief she has been preparing for, but is not ready to face. The hours stretch into days. The homestead feels empty, haunted by the absence of the creature that has defined Nia's life for the past year. She tells herself that this is natural, that Casey has found her way back to her own kind, that she is fulfilling her purpose. But the reassurance rings hollow. She finds herself speaking aloud to the empty air, recounting memories as if Casey might somehow hear them across the distance. She remembers the weight of the cub in her arms that first night, the desperate mewling, the miracle of those first swallows of milk. She remembers the morning Casey killed her first bird, the pride and shock mingling in those amber eyes. She remembers the afternoon they sat together by the acacia tree, Casey's massive head resting in Naya's lap, the lioness's purring so deep it seemed to emanate from the earth itself. 3 weeks pass. Naya has begun to accept that Casey is gone, that their time together was always meant to be temporary. She plants maize in the small plot behind her home, the rhythmic work of digging and sowing a meditation that keeps the loneliness at bay. Her neighbors stop asking about the lioness, their silence both a kindness and a confirmation of what they all believe, that Casey has either died trying to integrate with a wild pride or has moved too far away to ever return. Nya does not correct them. What would be the point? And then one evening, as the sun sinks below the horizon and the sky bruises purple and gold, Casey returns. She is not alone. Behind her, cautious and wary, are 2 young male lions, their manes just beginning to grow, their bodies lean and scarred from the hard life of nomadic existence. Casey approaches Nya slowly, her head lowered, her movements submissive in a way they have never been before. She stops a few meters away, her eyes locked on the old woman's face. And in that gaze, Nya sees something that breaks her. Gratitude, apology, and farewell, all woven together. Nya does not move, does not speak. She simply watches as Casey turns and walks back to the 2 males, her body language shifting from submission to confidence. The 3 lions stand together for a moment, a new coalition forming in the ancient way of their species. Then, as one, they turn and disappear into the gathering darkness. Nya stands in the doorway of her homestead, her hand pressed against her chest, feeling the ache there, the bittersweet pain of love and loss intertwined. The volcano in the distance is silent now, its fury spent, the landscape it ravaged slowly healing. And Nya understands, in a way that has nothing to do with words, that some bonds transcend species, that compassion does not require logic, and that the act of letting go is the truest measure of devotion. Weeks later, a wildlife researcher from the Regional Conservation Authority visits the area, documenting the movements of lion prides displaced by the volcanic eruption. He interviews Nya, scribbling notes in his field journal, his expression skeptical as she recounts the story of Casey. But when he returns to his vehicle, he radios his team with unexpected news. A new pride has been observed forming in the territory, a young female accompanied by 2 nomadic males, an unusual configuration but not unheard of. The female, he notes, shows no fear of human scent, often sleeping near the edge of settlements, but never causing conflict. The locals have begun to call her the Guardian, because she has been seen chasing off hyenas that threaten livestock, behavior that is rare but not impossible in lions that have experienced close human contact during their formative months. The researcher does not connect the lioness in his report to Naya's story. How could he? The idea of an old woman hand-raising a lion cub through a volcanic eruption, then releasing it successfully into the wild, defies every principle of wildlife biology he has been taught. But Nya knows. She knows because on certain nights when the moon is full and the air is still, she hears a sound in the distance, a deep, resonant roar that vibrates through the earth and echoes across the plains. It is the voice of a lioness claiming her territory, announcing her presence to rivals and allies alike. And though the sound should inspire fear, Naya feels only a profound, aching pride. Time moves differently for the old. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months. Nia's granddaughter visits from the city, a young woman with a university education and modern ideas. She listens to the story of Kessie with polite disbelief, nodding, but clearly thinking her grandmother has grown confused, mixing dreams with memory. But on the last night of her visit, as they sit outside under a ceiling of stars so dense it seems solid, a shape materializes at the edge of the firelight. The granddaughter gasps, her hand clutching Nia's arm. The lioness stands motionless, her eyes reflecting the flames like twin suns. She is magnificent, larger now, her body thick with muscle, a fresh scar running along her shoulder. Behind her, barely visible in the darkness, are the shapes of cubs, 3 of them tumbling over each other in play. Kessie watches Nia for a long moment, and then, in a gesture so deliberate it cannot be misunderstood, she lowers her head in a slow, measured bow. Then she turns, herding her cubs away with soft, guttural sounds, and disappears into the night. The granddaughter sits in stunned silence, her worldview fundamentally altered. Nia simply smiles, her eyes bright with unshed tears. She saved a life when logic dictated she should not. She loved a creature that could never truly love her back, at least not in the way humans understand love. And in doing so, she participated in a story older than language, a covenant between species that speaks to the best and most mysterious parts of the human heart. The volcanic soil, enriched with minerals, will eventually grow new grasses, and those grasses will feed herbivores, and those herbivores will feed predators, and the cycle will continue as it has for millions of years. Nia's homestead still stands on the edge of that renewed world, a small monument to stubbornness and compassion. She is older now, her steps slower, her vision dimming. But sometimes, in the hour before dawn, she sits outside and scans the horizon, searching for a tawny shape moving through the grasses. And sometimes, though she cannot be certain, she sees it. A lioness pausing on a distant ridge, her body silhouetted against the rising sun, looking back toward the place where her life began. The moment never lasts long. The lioness always turns away, drawn by the demands of her wild existence. But for Nia, those brief glimpses are enough. They are proof that mercy is not wasted, that connection is possible even across the unbridgeable gulf between human and beast, and that in a world often defined by cruelty and indifference, a single act of kindness can echo forward in ways we can never fully comprehend.